Hi, welcome to Overthinking Entrepreneur. I'm Megan, and I've had a successful online business for a few years now, and I think I overthought probably about 90% of my decisions along the way. Honestly, I just overthought whether I should say 90% or pretty much every decision in this intro. So if you find that relatable, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I will help you get out of overthinking and into action so that your online business can finally start growing. Hey guys, as promised, this is kind of a follow-up to last week's episode where I'm going to share with you some of my favorite strategies that help me be more productive. This is by no means a comprehensive list. This isn't even a comprehensive list of the things that I personally use, but this is certainly not a comprehensive list of all the things that work for anyone or work in general. These are some of the things that have worked for me. There's going to be some things that are not on this list on purpose, and I'll probably mention some of them as we go. Like for example, setting a timer. I don't understand why I can never remember to look words up and their pronunciations before I start recording this podcast, because I can't exactly just I could, but I don't want to do the editing that would be involved. And I also don't want to start over. So I'm just going to take my best guess. But there's the Pomodoro technique. I've only read it. I've never heard anyone say it out loud now that I'm thinking about it, where you work for 15 minutes, then you rest and you come back and you work and you rest. And I completely understand the thinking behind that technique, and I am in no way bashing it. If that sounds like something that might work for you, you should absolutely try it because it works for a lot of people. For me, it could not be less helpful. Seeing that ticking clock counting down until I have to stop and I haven't made progress, and now I'm looking and I'm saying, oh gosh, now I only have 8 minutes. Oh no, now I only have 7 minutes. No, how did another minute go? Only 6, and I've done it, and I'm just stressed. I'm a ball of anxiety, and it gets me nowhere. And I do better when I have longer stretches of time to work when possible. It's not always doable that way, but I do better when I can just relax and I don't have that time pressure. I hate to feel rushed with anything in my life. And so when I have that time pressure over my head, it is not my best quality of work, and it's not good, which is funny because I often do my best work the night before something is due, but not 10 minutes before it's due. I have to do it the night before. I have to know, if I have that ticking clock to this literally has to be handed in 10 minutes. I don't know why I said handing in. I guess I went back to school times, but if it literally needs done right now, same day, not good for me. I'm a mess. But the day before saying this has to be done tonight because it has to be done by tomorrow, that flips me into very productive mode. And so kind of learning these things about yourself is going to make a big difference. And that's a big part of the reason why I'm even doing this series for my podcast, is because I'm in the thick of creating a brand new program about productivity and helping you learn to get more done and really learn yourself. And such a big focus of this program is understanding yourself. And I even gave them, I don't want to say a lecture. I hope it didn't come across as a lecture, but just maybe that wake up call of we're going to go through this program and I'm going to help you every step of the way. It's not that you're just thrown to the wolves and say, figure it out, but ultimately you have to figure it out. I cannot tell you what's going to work for you when it comes to your productivity because we are all different. That Pomodoro technique I just talked about, it works wonderfully for a ton of people. It just doesn't work for me. It's not the technique's fault. It's just that my personality doesn't align with it, at least right now. Maybe in the future it will. You never know. Sometimes I try things that didn't work before and now they do, and the other way around. So it's about learning yourself and your personality and not trying to turn yourself into someone else or who you think you should be. I think that's where so many of us go wrong when it comes to productivity is when we make our plan, we're thinking about who we want to be, who we wish we were, the time schedule that we wish that we had. And what we create is not reflective of our actual habits and our lifestyle and our skills and all of those things. And so we try and make this, and then it doesn't work. And then we get frustrated and we say, well, time management doesn't work for me. And, I talked all last episode about how I'm personally much more of a fan of the concept of productivity than time management, but you get the idea, right? So all that to say, I am going to share with you the things that work for me personally, not a list of all the different things that you could possibly try. These are my things that I do. And I just want to talk to you about why I like them and why they work for me so that you can maybe try some of them out and find what works for you. And if you are really interested in learning to get more done and you're really just sick of your own self, I think that is one of the things that's happened for me over the years. I never really took a program. Well, no, that I shouldn't say that's true. I took things attempting to learn more about productivity, but I never took something that worked for me. Everything that I have put together, I've figured out on my own through a ton of trial and error. And you can do it through a ton of trial and error, but if you are sick of the same story every week and like, this is the week I'm finally going to get it together, like this is the week everything changes, and then it's not, right? Because your only plan is this week's going to be better, but that's not a plan. And so then nothing changes and then you feel frustrated again, then you might want to come check out my program. I think that it could make a big difference for you if you are really ready to put in the work and you want some guidance from someone who's been there. I feel like so much of the productivity help out there is written by people who are naturally good at being productive and getting things done. The kind of people who wake up at 6 a.m. and hop out of bed and live a whole life before I even like barely open my eyes and am miserable that I'm awake and wish I could go back to sleep, So, and on the one hand, I think that's great. I think the people who are best at something should teach it to those of us that struggle. But I also feel like people who haven't really struggled to get things done, when they try and give me tips, I'm like, oh, thanks. Just do it. I should have known. Why didn't I think of that? Oh, have some discipline. Why didn't I think of, like sometimes it's like, it feels like the suggestions that they're giving are things that I know that's what I should be doing, but I'm not doing it. And your advice is not helping me figure out why I'm not doing it or how I can start doing it. You're just reminding me that I'm not doing it. So in my program, I am by no means perfect when it comes to my productivity, but I'm like 80% better than my baseline, I would say, like so much better than I used to be. And that's what I want to help you do, is give you advice from someone who actually struggles with this, someone who does procrastinate like crazy, someone who does get distracted and does have a hard time getting things done and barely drags herself out of bed at like 9 a.m. most days. So anyway, if you want some help and you want some help from someone who actually gets you, you should really check out my program. I will throw the link in the show notes for you so you can check it out. Okay, so let's talk about the strategies for being more productive. So like I said, these are the things that have worked for me personally, and I'm going to start with batching. So this is where you group similar tasks together. You batch them together. So it's almost like the thinking behind the assembly line. Having one person follow the car down the whole line and do all of the different jobs takes a lot more time and mental energy than having one person do the same job all day long, because they get in the groove. They don't have that to like switch gears in their brain. They don't have to switch tasks. They don't have to kind of get in like the right mindset, headspace, whatever term that you like for this new job. They know what they're doing and they're doing it together. So let me give you some examples of what I mean and which tasks I batch. So if I know that I need to do a lot of writing, like content creation essentially, so let's say like today, for example, I need to write a post for my profile, I need to write a post for my group, and I need to write an email. So my day today did not shake out that I could sit down and write all of these in one setting, but that would be my preference if I didn't have a toddler and I was a little more in control of how my day was going to go. Because when I sit down and write, if I get into the kind of like writing mindset, I can write all three of those things much faster than if I do them one at a time. If I look at my total overall, how long did it take me to write these three things, the time will be probably twice as long if I do them like one here, one there, or if I bounce around. That's the other thing. I try really hard if I'm going to write a post to focus and write a post, and I'm not bouncing from thing to thing. So what can happen is you write a few lines or you write a paragraph, and then maybe you get a notification or a message and you go check it. And then blah, 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 next thing you know, you're scrolling Facebook and you've been there for 10 minutes and you say, oh crap, I was writing a post. So then you go back to the post and then you're like, where was I? So then you have to reread the whole thing. And then you say, okay, that's right. I know what I want to say. And you type another sentence or two and then same thing and repeat, right? You keep getting distracted. Every time you come back, you have to reread the whole post, remember where you were, try and remember what you wanted to say next, write it out, get distracted, come back. It takes so much longer to be bouncing from activity to activity. Or even sometimes this happens with really good intentions. Like you get a message and you think you should respond right away. So you go respond to the message and then come back to keep writing. But you're making all of these things take longer than they need to. So batching tasks together. Responding to messages or comments is another one. I get a lot of messages throughout the day, and I also get a lot of notifications for comments. And if I check them in real time, it interrupts what I'm working on, which distracts me. And then it takes me so much longer to get back into what I was doing. Even, if I go respond real quick and say, I'm going to come right back to this. No, I'm not. Are you? If you are, awesome. But if you're like me, where you say, oh, I'm just going to respond to this real quick and then I'll get right back to writing, will you really? Because if not, you need to finish writing before you go check it. Okay, this is why we're batching the things together so that we can get them done quickly. Because my goal is for you to spend less time working and get more done. Ultimately, that's what I want for you. Is for all of us, for myself too, is less time actually working my business, but more things getting done. And this is a huge time waste when you're bouncing from thing to thing to thing. And while we're at it, notifications in general can be a huge distraction and huge downfall of your time management. So a lot of times I recommend turning them off if you can. I know that's easier said than done. And I also know I've had times, like there was a period of time where I was like, I'm going to delete the Facebook app from my phone and that will make it so that I don't check all day long and that'll be better. You know what I did instead? I went to the browser on my phone and went to Facebook, and it took longer because now I had to log in and it wasn't just my app. So some of these things I understand are easier said than done. But I am telling you, if you can let go of the idea that things need to be instantly checked, like messages or notifications, it will make a world of difference. Just that one little change, stopping to run and check every little notification and getting out of the mindset that everything needs responded to right away will make a huge, 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 huge difference for you. Okay, so we're batching similar tasks together. So like I said, I get a lot of notifications and messages. If I check them in real time, like let's say in the middle of something else and then I get a notification that someone commented on my post, if I go read it and then type a comment, it's probably going to take me a little while. And then I'll switch back to my thing. It's if I reply to 10 comments on a post, but I do them one at a time, it will, again, take twice as long as if I sat there and did all 10, boom, 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 boom. So what I will do is I will let notifications build, and then I will check them and I will reply to all of them at the same time. Same thing with my messages. So you may have noticed that if you've ever sent me a message, especially if it's something business related that is going to take a little, like if it's a just for fun, like if it's a funny meme, you'll probably hear back from me fairly quickly if I'm available. But there may be times where you notice that it shows I'm active, or you see that I made a post, but you've sent me a message and I haven't read it or responded yet. This is why. Because I don't drop everything and run to reply to messages instantly. I instead let them build up. And then when I have time, I go into Messenger and I check them all and I respond to them all. And this takes me like half the time that it would if I felt like I had to respond to them all day long. So that's how I use batching for my business. I'm kind of getting into that mindset. Same thing, I will do this with photos. If I have a day where my hair looks good and I have my makeup done, I'll take a whole bunch of photos. I will go to different rooms. I will change my outfit. Whatever I need to do. Batching similar things together, especially if you happen to be like in the right mindset or you feel like working on something. Let's say you happen to be in the mood to record or do videos or whatever, run with that. Like do as many as you can, group them together and get them done so that you'll have them for later. Okay. Next strategy that helps me be more productive is my daily to-do list. I don't think you necessarily have to use a to-do list, although I sometimes have a hard time understanding why you wouldn't want one, unless like you essentially do the same thing somewhere else. But literally a written to-do list. Quit keeping this in your head and quit just kind of deciding in the moment what to work on. When I used to have a few minutes here, a few minutes there to try and work, I would sit down and then I would spend the whole time. Well, first of all, I'd be like, I better check my notifications. So I'm checking, I'm responding. Now I'm distracted. Now I'm scrolling. Now I'm doing who knows what. I didn't even reply to half the messages that I wanted to because I'm just having fun. I'm just checking, doing whatever I want. And then I would say, okay, I should really get to work. I have a few minutes left here. What should I do? And then I say, oh, I don't know. I could do this. I could do that. I could do this. I'm not quite sure. And then boom, time's up. And I got nothing at all done. Does that sound familiar to you? This is where my to-do list is my absolute best friend. I write a to-do list every morning. You can write yours the night before if that works better for you. I like to write mine in the morning. I don't know why, but I always have. And I write mine every morning. And that way, when I do have a few minutes here or there, I can look at my to-do list, pick something that needs done and do it. And something got done. Plus, I absolutely love the satisfaction and the little hit of dopamine, which is basically the chemical that makes your brain feel good, that I get from crossing an item off my to-do list. So for me, a to-do list is crucial. And if you don't want to actually write a to-do list, you don't have to. So I used to do mine on paper in a little notebook when I was working in my office really regularly. Now that I'm kind of all over the place, I have switched to doing mine electronically. I do it right in my Apple Notes app, and you can make anything into a little checklist in your Notes app. So I do it that way. But having some sort of plan. If you don't want to use a to-do list, that's fine, but you do need a plan. If you're just sitting down and saying, I don't really know what I'm going to work on, but let's see what happens. Spoiler alert, not much is going to happen. Okay. So you need to have a plan. Next thing, creating some rewards or possibly some punishment for myself. So I sometimes have to treat my own self and train my own self like a dog. And, you can judge me for that if you want to, but I can tell you that it works, and it works for most of us. So if you can attach a reward to completing something on your list, or completing your whole list, however you want to do this, or some sort of punishment or something that you can't do or have to do, depending on what you choose for not completing your list, that can make a big difference. So an example of this, which it's not necessarily like I don't do this to punish myself per se, but it does end up sometimes feeling like a punishment. If I don't get things done during the day that have to be done. Now, if they're things that can wait, I will let them slide usually, but not multiple days in a row. But if there's something that needs done and I did not manage to get it done during the day, then what I have to do is stay up late and get it done. And then I'm not going to get enough sleep, and I'm going to be tired, and it kind of sucks to not get enough sleep, right? So that's one of those things that kind of hangs over my head, is like, and again, it's not like a punishment for punishment's sake, but it does help me focus, because it's like, okay, this needs done today no matter what. So either I do it now or I do it at 2 a.m. When would I rather do it? And sometimes when I put it to myself that way, I'm like, okay, I'd rather do it now. So that's something that has helped me a lot. Rewards can help a lot too. So let's say that you want to watch, I don't know, maybe you have a favorite TV show that's coming out or something you've really been wanting to check out. And if you can negotiate with yourself and say, okay, if I can finish my to-do list, then I can sit down and I can watch 2 episodes tonight instead of just 1. That can be a really good way to kind of motivate yourself, finding those rewards that you create for yourself. I know that a lot of people are motivated by like external rewards, when other people offer you incentives or prizes or whatever that could be. And that's great, but I don't think you can rely on that forever. Like, you can't build a business and say, well, no one's offering me a prize right now, so I'm not going to do anything. Like, that's just not going to work. You have to figure out how to do this for yourself. So what are some rewards or possibly some punishments that you can give to yourself to help you just focus and be more productive? And this is particularly if you're giving it all you've got, please don't punish yourself. Like, this is not designed to punish yourself when nothing can change. But if you had all day long and all you did was watch TV and gossip with your friends, then now might be the time to think about a reward or a punishment system for yourself. Okay, so I just want to be clear and mention that. Like, if you are like at capacity, trying as hard as you possibly can, and things still didn't get done, then maybe you need to change your list. Like, maybe there's some other things that need to change, but that is not a cause for punishing yourself. Okay. Next thing, have you heard of Eat That Frog? I read this book. I remember, I don't know why this stuck with me so strongly, but I read this book on a plane. And many, many years ago, I think I was going to a company conference when I was still in network marketing. And I remember the concept made a ton of sense. Eat That Frog, which I don't even remember. It's been so long since I read the book, like where that name and phrasing came from. Why a frog? I don't know. But what I do remember is that the idea is that you're supposed to pick the hardest, most intimidating thing off your to-do list and do that first and get it out of the way. And some days this is what I like to do. There are certain days where this works better for me. And so I do sometimes take that Eat the Frog approach, where like, especially if it'll make the rest of your list feel almost like you're pushing the boulder over the peak of the mountain. And once you tackle that one big scary thing off your list, now you're over the top, and now it feels like the boulder can kind of roll down the other side and it's not as hard anymore. I think that can be a really great approach sometimes. But I have often found, especially on days when I'm struggling to get things done, that the opposite works really well for me. Do the easiest thing. Pick the easiest thing on your list. And the reason why this works is going back to dopamine, right? Dopamine is the chemical in your brain that makes you feel good and makes you want to keep doing things. And so if you're staring at this big, intimidating thing and you can't get yourself to start, and you're just saying, come on, just do it, just do it, just do it. Now, first of all, like, you're wasting a ton of time, right? Like, if just sitting there, this was a huge realization for me. There were so many times where I was trying to like force myself to do do the thing that I was trying to work on right now. And it's just not happening for whatever reason. I just am not feeling this thing right now. And I would sit there and say, but you have to, you have to, you have to. And sometimes in the spirit of like, but you got to eat the frog. Why aren't you eating the frog? What's wrong with you? Everything else will be easy if you just eat the frog. And I would get so mad at myself that I didn't seem to be just doing it. But I have to kind of check in with myself on a day-to-day basis. And it also depends on what that day's frog is, what that activity is. But a lot of times what works better for me is to pick the easiest thing off my list and do that. Because when I do that, I get that little hit of dopamine and now I feel good. I just cross something off my to-do list and that rolls me into momentum. And that action and that dopamine and that satisfaction makes you want to keep going. And next thing you know, you're doing another and another and another and another. And a lot of times I will end up eating the frog eventually, but sometimes it's last or it's somewhere in the middle of my list. And I just remember thinking I needed to start with the hardest and work my way down. And I totally understand the reasoning for it. And like I said, some days that is what I do, but taking the pressure off myself to think that I have to do that every day has been really helpful for me. And sometimes I would never eat the frog, but when I start with the easy thing, I get a lot more done. And so quit staring at your phone or computer screen or your notebook, whatever it is, whatever your work looks like. Quit sitting there trying to force yourself to do this one thing that just isn't happening. And I think the longer you're in business and the more you know yourself, there are times when I can sense, yeah, I am going to get this done. I need to like procrastinate for a little bit first and get that out of my system, but I am going to get this done and I'll stick with it. But there's also times where I say, you know what, this is not happening right now. Like I'm sitting there and I'm trying and I can just tell it is not happening. And it's not productive to sit there and get mad at yourself and more mad at yourself that you're not doing the thing that you want to be working on right now. So I started calling this the productive squirrel, where I let myself jump to something else. And, you know, sometimes this thing really kind of needs done and I really wish that I was working on it right now. But what I can tell you is sitting there saying this really needs done and I really wish I was working on this right now for 2 hours, but not actually doing anything is a waste of 2 hours. But instead, I can pick something else on my to-do list that's going to need done anyway. And, you know, it's not ideal for it to be done today instead of the other thing, but at least something got done. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to like do the thing or do the right thing, do it this way, do it the way someone else does or whatever, that we waste a lot of time trying to force ourselves to do this one thing when instead we could have done 16 other things. 16 is probably a pretty high number. I guess it depends on the things. I don't know. I don't know why I went with 16, but sometimes I probably could have done 16 other things during the time that I stare at my computer trying to force myself to do this one thing that just isn't happening. So be a productive squirrel. Squirrel to something else, but make it something else on your to-do list. Because if you're not working and you're getting mad at yourself, it's really easy to say, well, I'm just going to walk away. And I think sometimes walking away and coming back can be a really good strategy. But I think we can also sometimes be like, you know what, I'm not doing anything. So I'm just going to like, I don't know, read about my favorite show instead. Or I'm just going to, maybe I'll just watch an episode. Or I'm just going to do this. Or, next thing you know, you're doing something else. And what I do instead is squirrel to something else on my to-do list. So that's the productive squirrel. And I find it to be really, really helpful. And then the other thing I want you to just be mindful of, this is kind of the last thing that I had to take a look at. And it's still hard for me because I have not as many local in real life friends, which is something that I really want to work on. We bought a house and we moved to a new city, and then I got pregnant way faster than I expected to. And I just haven't, I don't have a job that I go to, like I'm home. I have not met like local mom friends, and I really want to. That's one of my goals for this year. But for now, I do have a large social network online, which I'm very grateful for. And it's really easy to chat with them all day long and feel like I was working, but I wasn't. And it's extra tricky because a lot of my friends I've met through business and they're friends, but just chatting with my friends is not productive. It's not working. So I want you to really kind of set those boundaries and ask yourself, like, what are my time wasters? What are the things that I do? And sometimes they're sneaky because sometimes we convince ourselves we're working. Like if you are, especially if you're in network marketing, if you're part of a network marketing team, you can easily talk to the people on your team and be like, but I was talking to my team. What do you mean? Well, were you doing anything productive or were you just chatting? And I, for the record, think socializing and building relationships with the people on your team is very important. I am not trying to say that you shouldn't ever do that. But what I am saying is when you need to get something done and you're chatting with your team and calling it working, that's not working. Okay, that's probably not something that's coming off of your to-do list. So think about, what are those boundaries that you need to set, or where do you tend to waste time? Are you mindlessly scrolling the newsfeed all the time? Are you wasting way too much time in Messenger? Do you click to watch a reel and next thing you know, you've been watching reels for an hour? What are those common kind of time sucks for you when it comes to social media, so that you can be really mindful of them? But I find chatting is a really common one. We make friends, which is great, and I love that, and I want you to connect with your friends and have that time. I think it's really beneficial in a lot of ways, but just remember that it's not very productive. And so sometimes you have to like say, okay, I'm gonna go do some work and then I'll talk to you guys later. Or maybe you just go silent. You don't even need an explanation. Maybe you just need to mute that chat or mute all your notifications or whatever it can be. But figuring out like, what are those time wasters for you, those kind of time sucks that happen for you on social media, and what can you do to address those? Okay, so like I said, by no means a comprehensive list of everything that you could ever do to try and be more productive, but these are some of the things, and they're all so simple. I hope, like, part of me is like, they're going to listen to this episode and say, what do you mean? Like, did you think this was groundbreaking? No, I don't want it to be groundbreaking, because I think that those crazy groundbreaking things tend to not be realistic and we don't stick to them in the long term. These are all really simple things that you can start doing today, right away, and really see a difference in how much you're getting done. I think that I thought that I needed this fancy system. I saw people with these planners or these spreadsheets, or they were using these apps, or they were using all these things, and they're like, I'm so organized. Look at this. This is crazy. And that's just not me. And saying, you know what? I need to just like group some of my tasks together, have my to-do list, like set some rewards for myself, take a right approach to my to-do list depending on how I'm feeling today, set some boundaries. Like, those little things are the big things. Those are the things that you can realistically change and stick to even when life is crazy, that make a big difference. So I hope that you loved this. I hope that you will find something that you can try. And that's your action step for this episode, is pick one of these things that I listed and try it out today or tomorrow, depending on what time you're listening to this, or, what day, whatever. You can pick what day you try it, but pick one of these strategies, and ideally one that you've never tried before. Don't just do the thing that you already do anyway. That's, that doesn't count. I mean, it counts, but push yourself a little bit here. Okay. Pick something that you have not done before and try it and see if it makes a difference. And let me know. I always put up a discussion post in my Facebook group the day that these episodes go out. So if you aren't in there, get yourself in the group. It's such a great community. And I think it's really fun to see what you guys take away from the episodes. But you can also totally shoot me a message and let me know which one you try and if it helps you. And I hope that you are having a good day. And I'll talk to you again next week. I hope this episode inspires you to go take action on something you have been overthinking. As much as I wish you could, you cannot think your way to success, so promise me you're going to go take some action today. Head over to overthinkingentrepreneur.com to find all the cool stuff I've made for you over the years, like my free guide to getting more social media engagement and my Facebook group, Dynamite Entrepreneurs, which has a free course on social media basics.